the sun sets, the undead awaken. To slake their hunger, they feed upon the herd of unaware mortals. Right beneath our noses, the kindred clash against their rivals as they vie for control of the city of San Francisco. Are you strong enough to cheat final death and see another night? Vampire the Masquerade Rivals expandable card game from Renegade Game Studios.
Welcome everybody to Vampire Wednesdays. I am Sarah Erickson, Director of Sales and Marketing, and I am joined today by lead designer of Vampire the Masquerade Rivals expandable card game, Matt Hire. How are you, Matt?
Hello, doing well.
Awesome. I'm so happy to have you here today because we have lots of fun stuff going on. We will be talking about the rest of Crypt Pack today. We're going to be showing off some brand new cards that people haven't been able to see yet, which is super exciting. We also have a fun announcement for everybody. So we are going to be posting very soon.
Sarah, hold on a second.
Hold on.
You're getting a little choppy.
You're choppy.
Oh, why? Why?
I know, it's like, it's actually, you're kind of frozen a little bit. So, okay, you might be good now. Just don't move and talk through your teeth. Then people won't be able to tell the difference. So, all right, go try again.
Hot tips from Matt, like we usually get.
Usually.
Awesome. Okay, so in case you missed that, because my internet is terrible, first tip of the day is don't live in rural Montana if you're trying to do live streaming. Tip number 2, listen to Matt, he's always right. And tip number 3, we will... No, don't listen to Matt.
I'm not always right. Oh, you should always listen. You should always listen to me, but you know, I'm not always right.
That's fair. That's fair.
It's fair to assume I'm right, but you might sometimes figure out that I'm wrong only after I have your wallet and watch, though.
Oh! All right. We'll be very careful to listen to Matt only when appropriate. And hot tip number 3 is watch out tomorrow because we are going to be announcing some fun stuff about our upcoming Renegade Con that will be especially exciting for all of you. We're going to be allowing backers on the weekend of October 9th to play using Tabletopia, the new version of Vampire Rivals. So what that means is we've updated all the cards. Anyone who played it at Gen Con already got to see the Tabletopia version, but we're going to let all backers, anybody who wants to, click on that link during our Renegade Con and be able to try it out for yourself and play around with all the stuff that's in there. It won't have a Crypt Pack, but all the cards in the core game will be available in those decks.
And they're all updated. It should be fun. I think what you're trying to say, right? They're all updated to the new cool frames. Yeah, sweet.
Yep, all the new frames, any other updates that we made, all that will be in Tabletopia ready for people to play. So that'll be super fun. We're excited to get people's reactions to it and let all of you dig into it because we know you're super excited. And the last time people got to play was before the Kickstarter even happened. So now everybody who's learned about it since then will get a chance to jump in on that. So it should be pretty awesome. The other thing you might be interested in that's going on this week is if you're a fan of San Francisco in general, which we assume most of you are since it's the best city, right? And that's where Vampire is set for this one. We are doing another Kickstarter right now that has to do with San Francisco. We're just on a California theme right now. It's the plan. And this one is actually a throwback. It's all the way to the 1850s. And the Kickstarter right now is called Embarcadero. If you're into strategy board games, definitely go and check it out. Also, if you just want to play around with Tabletopia, we have a link in that Kickstarter so you can try out Embarcadero on Tabletopia right now. So you can get a little practice, get ready for Renegade Con so that you know how to use it. It does have a bit of a learning curve, so that'll be good. Awesome. Well, and also anyone who's watching, we love questions. We know that people have lots of new questions because this is a brand new game and you don't necessarily know how it works. There are no bad questions. Please post them in chat. If you have anything you want to know, Matt did design this game, so we hope he can probably answer some of your questions. I would hope, but who knows? We'll
Are there
put
any
him to the
questions?
test.
Are there any questions for me already?
We will see. Oh man, there is a suggestion that we do an expansion for Vampire Rivals in Ohio. Would you have any particular knowledge of Ohio that would be useful, Matt? All I'm going to say is that there should definitely be Jenny's ice cream involved.
Oh yeah, definitely Jenny's ice cream is what's used. Well, I suppose it's possible there could be like an Origins tournament where Ohio comes into play, right? That could happen someday.
Someday.
Oh, here's another. Did Matt's facial hair grow more? Yes, it did. I haven't shaved in a little bit, so yeah, it grows slowly. It grows pretty slowly.
I'm right there with you. I've not had a haircut since February, so
Oh wow,
it happens. A little extra up here. That's fine. Also, somebody would like to know your bank account, so if you want to, text that over later.
It's 12345, and it's in the Cayman Islands. So good luck. There you go.
Nice. Oh, another good city suggestion. How about Atlanta? I like Atlanta. It's an interest. They have the best aquarium I've ever been to.
Oh wow. We're seeing all these, Ohio, Atlanta. Maybe we should talk about. We probably want to go outside North America for the next one. So, tell us what non-US city, what non-North American city you might want. Just throughout the chat, that's all. But I think people
interesting.
So it just sprinkle that about, but we want to hear other questions, mostly about the cards that we're about to show. So maybe we should get into it.
Sure. Yeah. Let's. Oh, Montreal. Oh, it's still in North America, but I do like that suggestion. I love Montreal.
Okay.
Mexico City.
We have two people who don't get any more guesses anymore.
Yeah.
So Montreal and Mexico City. Come on.
Oh man, I think those are great guesses. All right. Well, let's look at some beautiful cards now that they're all updated and super pretty. So the first one we're looking at is called Blood for Blood. Tell us about this one a little bit, Matt.
All right, so first thing you might notice up there next to the title is a little Brujah clan symbol. So this card, you have to have a Brujah in your coterie, meaning not in torpor, to be able to play this card. It's an action and it's ongoing, so you will have to exhaust someone to do it, but it can be a little guy and then let the big guys go fight. When you're Brujah, you want your best fighters out in the streets scrapping. So this is an ongoing. It reads, when a character in your coterie makes a physical attack, that's what the little claw is, that's physical, they have the ability, pay 1 blood, deal +1 damage to the target. So there's two fun little things about this. One is, this is not, if you've read the rules, you've probably noticed that you can only use any of the payment abilities, activated abilities, once per turn, right? But this card doesn't have an inherent activated ability. It grants it to an attacker in your coterie. So that means two things. One, if you have multiple Blood for Bloods, you can use each of them once. You're still limited to doing it only once per turn, but it's really granting that power to your character, okay? Which means that, yes, if you have 3 of those, your character can spend 3 blood to do +3 damage, which is probably going to take out all but the biggest of vampires. And the second thing is, you can use it in back-to-back attacks because the card itself is not being utilized for the activated ability. It's giving it to your character. That character used the activated ability, but the next attacker you have during that very same turn can still use it. Now, of course, paying blood constantly, paying lots of blood constantly is going to find you on the receiving end of some beatdowns eventually. But when you really need to get an attack to go through, Blood for Blood is a great way for the Brujah to do it. And when you combine this card with something like the spoils, which can mend each of your characters in the attacking party, well, then you've got a little engine going at that point, if you can get all that into play, of course. So this one is pretty unique in that you can use it multiple times during the turn because it itself is not an activated ability.
That is a really interesting card. And we actually had a really good question about it in chat here. Rarverin, sorry if I mispronounced that. What happens if I play this card with a Bruja in play, but then all my Bruja get sent to Torpor?
Right, doesn't matter. It's only the play. So because this is an action ongoing, it's going to stay in play. It's not a card that you keep having to replay. If you had to replay it, then you would need a Bruja. But once you've had a Bruja in your coterie, and then anyone on the team can play the card, exhausting to play the action, and even if that Bruja is sent packing, you still have that card legally in play, and all of your characters, no matter their clan affiliation, can still use it.
Interesting. So it only checks that one time when you play it.
It only checks on the play. That's right. Mm-hmm.
That makes a lot of sense.
If it was gonna be otherwise, the clan symbol would be down in the actual activated part of it, the payment part, but it's not. The only payment on it is pay one blood. So there you go.
It does sound like you could get yourself in a lot of trouble with that one, but as long as you're careful.
If you knock out opposing vampires, they might not have enough to come back at you. So you take out their best fighter, and then maybe it doesn't matter if you are down a little bit of blood. So
yeah, Blood for Blood is a very appropriate name for that card.
It is. You can't get any easier. You know what it does just from the title.
Fantastic. So speaking of great titles, this next one is one of my favorite. It's called PR Firm. I think that's a brilliant title. And I love that it makes it feel very modern and that it's got that level of intrigue in there. So tell us about this one a little bit.
So, and again, these are cards from the Crypt Pack. So you may have seen some of the clan-only cards in the main decks, but in the pre-constructed decks, but we want to give you guys extra cool abilities for the clans. So PR Firm is a Toreador. I think I've mentioned previously that the Toreador are probably the best at schemes right now, although the Ventru do pretty well, and a Ventru and Toreador mix can really do well. But the PR Firm, again, unhosted action ongoing, so you don't have to exhaust anyone to play this card. It's ongoing, it's going to stay in play. When a scheme you play succeeds, you may pay 1 prestige and you'll gain 1 agenda. So that's a one use only, but if you could have 3 of them in play and then really start spending prestige to gain agenda. Of course, your schemes have to succeed. And the Ventru have a lot of ways to make that happen. And certainly with some of the influence modifiers, that can definitely happen. So this is a fun one. It's basically, sometimes vampires just need a little bit of mortal help. So why not hire a PR firm to hide your true motivations and your true goings on in the world, in the nightlife world that the Toreador like to inhabit.
Well, and I also really like this one because the goal of the game is to get to 13 prestige. So you might be giving up a little bit of that. I'm sorry, agenda. I got it wrong. Okay, agenda. So it's okay to give up a little prestige to do that, which fits really nicely with this card. So
the name of the PR firm, in case you're wondering what all that writing is, we've got Suite 200 is Renegade Game Studios. Suite 201 is Sunshine and Associates. That's what it says. It's public relations. And then Suite 202 is Paradox Interactive, which of course are the World of Darkness masters. So we're all
hilarious.
We're all big happy family. So
cute. I like it. That's adorable.
And I thought Sunshine and Associates would be just like the absolute wrong name for a PR firm that a vampire owned. So this is a human company. A vampire would never name their PR firm Sunshine and Associates. So
well, make sure other vampires don't want to use firm.
Right. So the gal in the picture is not a vampire. Don't worry. Okay. So there you go.
Okay, good. I have another really good question. Will we see any cards that require more than one of a certain vampire clan in play? So, because we will eventually be able to be mixing these clans, especially when you get your own core set, you'll be doing that, building your own decks. So, are there any that have a dual requirement?
There are not any right now. That would have to be a very specific card to be like, wow, you need 2 clans. That would kind of have to be that. I could really only see that as some kind of story event almost, where it's like, okay, this big World of Darkness event is happening between 2 clans, and we need to figure out a way to get this card into play. I can't imagine any other type of card that would require 2 clans to bring out, 2 different clans to bring out. So there are certainly cards that will benefit you for having multiple clans, but requiring 2 clans is probably nothing we would see for quite a while. That would probably be like some big event kind of thing.
Or 2 of the same clan. Another good question.
Oh, as in like double put double symbol. I would say that would probably be a little bit more likely to like really say, hey, this card is only if you're like pretty well entrenched in the Bruja or the Ventru or something like that. That could happen. If there was like a title that no one but a Ventru has held that title for 500 years. Yeah, I could see that being a double Ventru type of thing. Could see something like that.
Giving Matt all sorts
Nothing
of
like that
ideas
so far, though. Nothing like that so far, though.
Fair enough. Interesting stuff, though. And I do really like this card. I think that this could really point you in a particular direction to build your deck around.
Yeah. So some people might, some astute observers may have noticed that the what am I trying to say? The agenda card that goes with the manipulate the masses only gives you 1 agenda when a scheme you play succeeds. So, which isn't a ton, but some of the schemes actually give you agenda. But this PR firm really goes well with that manipulate the masses agenda, so that you can synchronize really going for a big scheme deck that way. You don't have to, though. You could do something else and still manage to get agenda from your schemes. So
makes a lot of sense. Well, we want to show you yet another new card. So we've also got Royal Review. I'm not really sure what this one does, but I can't see the card yet. Is it Ventru?
I see it. You got slow internet, it's fine. Royal Review. This is a Ventru action card, and it says gain 1 prestige for each title in your coterie. So that means that as long as you have a Ventru in your coterie, you can exhaust one of them to play this card, and you can gain some prestige. So typically the Ventru will have 3 or 4 characters, and hopefully 3 or 4 titles if you're doing everything right. But early titles can cost you some prestige to play because you don't have a ton of influence early. You just have the 1 from your leader, and some of the titles might cost 3, 4, even 5 influence. You need to exert a bunch of influence to play. If you don't have the influence, you're going to supplement that with prestige. So this is a way to get some of that lost prestige back, so you can play more titles, more characters. The more characters you have, the more titles you can play, because it's a limit of 1 title per character, right? So this is a good way to make a comeback. So the Ventru are one of the better clans at gaining prestige out of thin air. This is a good way to do it.
Yep. And as I'm Matt122 states, this is very on brand. I think that's very appropriate.
So the Royal Review is, everyone's kind of lounging around in maybe a nightclub or something like that, and they're all just they're judging you. That's what they're doing. Everyone in the picture is judging you. So
they do look very judgy. Yeah. So when you're actually a little behind the scenes question, when you're designing these cards, you also are writing the art description saying, I want this card to be people sitting around judging you, or whatever that is, right?
Right. Well, this actually is kind of a see and be seen type of card. You're showing off, by having maybe the prince and a seneschal or something in the same room is like, whoa, check that out, you know. And so, yeah, it's basically, I just figure, well, sometimes I have an image in my mind, sometimes I have a card title in my mind, sometimes I have a play effect in my mind, and I'll just think about how these things can all work together. But eventually the card needs to show some vampires looking cool and dangerous, and if they can, you know, vampires are all about intrigue and secrets, and royalty are the ones who traffic in that the most. So there you go. That's kind of where the art came in. And of course, I'm not telling them I want 4 characters on a red couch telling secrets and looking cool. I just say, you know, we want 4 royal looking, you know, not even 4. I just say we want a few royal looking vampires who are, you know, kind of doing the see and be seen at a nightclub. So then the artist does a sketch. We might give them a little pointers like, oh, can we add one more vampire? Or, oh, maybe the old guy is whispering to the younger guy, to the main dude on the couch that everyone's kind of looking at, you know. So it's a collaborative process with the artist to get it right. So they interpret my art description, and then they art it up, which I can't do.
Yeah, it must be really fun to see all that come to life in a way that you maybe did or didn't even imagine. So if anybody else is interested in this art process, we did have a fun interview with Anita Osmer, who handles all this for us, our creative director, 2 weeks ago. Definitely go and check that out. Cool. So moving on just a little bit to our next one.
As we move on, we actually have a question from Facebook. So Philip, Philip Bazar, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, so sorry. What era of Vampire the Masquerade does this game take place in? 2nd edition, 5th edition?
Yeah, it is 5th edition, so that puts us in modern day. So we'll maybe we should say 2019, so that we don't have to account for COVID in the game, you know.
I think everyone is okay with just skipping 2020 altogether.
We could do a 2020 event deck, and it would be check for COVID, check for COVID, check for COVID, wildfire, protest in the street, protest in the street, protest in the street. So there you go. It'd be easy.
You know, really, I can make it even easier for you. So last week I was on vacation, as some of you maybe know because I wasn't here, and my brother visited, which was a really big event because I haven't seen other people in 6 months now, so that was pretty exciting. And we played Pandemic Legacy the entire week that he was here. So really, all you need is a card that you just pull it out and say, okay, go play Pandemic Legacy now, because it was on point.
Speaking of the dumpster fire that 2020 is, we have Dumpster Dive. All right, Dumpster Dive, Malkavian action. So put a card from your discard pile into your hand. If your coterie has 2+ Auspex, draw 1 card. So, yeah, dumpster diving is a fun thing for the Malkavians because they have some cool conspiracies they might want to get back. They might want to grab their everything is connected. If they have a bunch of conspiracies out, grabbing an everything is connected just immediately gives an extra prestige to all of your conspiracies, right, from the general supply. And they have some very good reaction cards like Insanity Defense, one of the best. And this is a good way to get those cards back. And if you have enough Auspex among your characters in your coterie, you're going to draw a card. So you're going to be bonus a card at that point. So it's not just replace card with card at the cost of a character and an action. It's more likely to be character, action, card that you really want plus a new card. So that's a little bit better deal for them. So
yeah, for sure. I like that one a lot. You just need to make sure you check that the dumpster is not on fire before you dive into it.
That's true. Right. And you got to have some cards in there, and you have to have some cards in your discard pile as well. So, you know, you can heal, you can use the You can use the Madhouse Haven to pitch some cards to add tokens to your conspiracies. So you'll find something, I promise.
Nice. Yeah, definitely some card advantage there. St. Bailey's is correct on that one. Nice. Well, that is one I am looking forward to using, and I particularly enjoy the art on that. That's actually pretty hilarious.
And the legs on that belong to Karma, in case you're wondering. So.
Oh, okay.
It's a Drew Tucker piece, and he drew Karma. So we tend to give artists, if there's a character who's referenced in multiple art requests, we tend to give them to the same artist. So of course you can't really tell that it's Karma, but that's fine. It's good.
We all know now.
Who else would you want digging around in a dumpster other than a character named Karma? Come on.
Perfect.
All right. New card.
I like it. Inside. All right, new card. We've after you do some dumpster diving, you can do a drive-by, which is our next card.
You could. So this is a big time Bruja card. It's a 4 BP requirement, and it does 2 damage. This thing is a ranged attack. So, you're going to drive by in your bright yellow SUV and blast everybody. So, ranged attack. So the text is deal 2 damage to an additional member of the opposing party for each character with celerity in this party. The caveat, you can't target the same character twice. So, if you catch an opposing party with very little physical attribute, you're going to be able to do some damage to them. Now, it's not aggravated like the Molotov cocktail is, but you also don't have to discard a card. So, and that 2 damage can get past 1 physical, right? If they've got 1 physical, you'll do 1 damage to them. If they've got 2 physical, you won't do any damage to them. So, and the initial character you're targeting with the drive-by takes 2 damage because of the 2 in the skull underneath the 4 BP requirement. So hopefully this is all making sense. I think I just spouted a lot of gobbledygook. Basically, you're going to do 2 damage to everyone in the opposing party, whether they're in the streets or in their haven. So don't forget that you can shoot out the windows to their haven and blast away with a drive-by as well. Granted, it's going to cost you a card to overcome their secrecy, but if somebody has 3 or 4 characters in their haven or even in the streets in the same party, you're going to be able to do some damage to them. Might not
that card is,
but you're going to do some damage to them big time.
That's a pretty intense card. Yeah. I like that one.
Right. So for instance, if your attacking party is like 3 characters, you'll exhaust one of them to make the attack, and then if all 3 of those characters have celerity, you're going to actually hit 4 opposing characters, because the initial attack automatically does 1, and then it's an additional character gets hit for each celerity. So if a party of 3 that all had celerity would actually hit 4 enemies. In case you're
we had a very important question. Is that really an SUV? And I would say it is, because I actually had a bright yellow Ford Explorer that looked just like that.
Right.
It was a terrible car.
You can tell,
but yes,
you can tell there's even a 3rd row of seats in this one, right? Or an optional 3rd row of seats. Check your local listings and dealers. But
this is really more like a Suburban, like a bright yellow Suburban that you could carry around.
No vampire would be caught dead in a Suburban. Okay, we call it an SUV.
Okay. I backtrack.
Right.
Oh, yes, it does look like a banana.
It is a banana.
I love it.
All right. I think we're good there. Yeah, question? No.
Are we good? Everybody understand that one? I think we're all in one place. So. I'm excited to hear about this one. I think we could all utilize an emergency blood bag. Who doesn't need one of those, right?
True enough. This is a generic card. It's not clan based. We went through all the clan cards first, just to show you guys some exciting stuff, some big time effects. But sometimes just utility cards are just nice. So emergency blood bag. If you're getting beat down in all your games, an emergency blood bag is pretty good. It's an unhosted action, so you're not exhausting a vampire to use it. It does use up one of your 2 actions for the turn. Add 3 blood from the general supply to this card. Ongoing. At the start of your turn, you may place a token from this card onto a wounded character in your coterie or in torpor. When empty, burn this card. So, wounded, if you've read the rules, it means that you're at half blood or less. And I like to use the example of a 5 BP blood potency character is at half when they're at 2 blood or less, okay? If you're at 6, then it's 3 or less. So it's half but rounded down, if that makes sense. So this is basically just free healing, and it's especially good for characters in torpor because when you go into torpor, you only have 1 blood. And so far, everyone in torpor will be wounded, right? Because the lowest cost character we have is 2. So with only 1 blood on them, they're wounded. So during your turn, at the start of your turn, so let's say that your 2 cost character gets taken out by somebody, you're going to pay 1 prestige, flip it to the blood side to put it on there. So your 2 cost character has 1 blood. Then at the start of your turn, bam, you can put a blood on them from the emergency blood bag, and they will come right back into play, and you can use them immediately. That's for the little guys. Big guys, of course. A 6 cost character, you might actually get a couple of uses out of the emergency blood bag, depending on how much other healing you do for them. But this is a utility card, and very good if you find that your strategy requires your characters to stay alive or come back from torpor a little quicker. Like for instance, if you use blood for blood a lot, this could be a good card for you.
I was just going to mention that. This seems like it could be very useful.
And
I can definitely I
Right.
can see playing 3 of these in that deck, which is the maximum number if you were playing something like Blood for Blood.
True.
Very interesting. I do like having just general utility cards. So is this next one that we're about to talk about also a utility card? It's Hedge Your Bets.
This is, I wouldn't call this utility. This is a something you could call opportunistic, or it can, but it's either opportunistic or something that you want to put in your deck because you're looking to do schemes or titles. Okay, so this is an influence modifier. You probably saw the other one. I think we previewed it a month ago or so. It's called the Last Word. The Last Word gives you 5 influence, and if your side wins, you get 1 prestige. Okay, so that's a big amount of influence all at once, but you can use it for yes or no in a scheme. Now, this Hedge Your Bets is also an influence modifier. The reason we have 2 influence modifiers is we didn't want to make it 100% obvious when you put the card face down what it was, right? Because you play influence modifiers face down during schemes. So we didn't want it to be 100% obvious which card you were using. It could be +2 or it could be +5. This one's +2. So gain 2 influence during this action or event. If this is a scheme and it fails, gain 1 agenda. So that's the hedge, okay? A hedge is, hedges are things you do in betting and, stock market, things like that, to limit the downside of failure. So when you're playing a scheme, you might place this card face down and knowing that your opponents are gonna go all out to stop you, like spending all of their potential influence. But secretly you're like, I'm okay if this fails. Granted, if it fails, you can't trigger your PR firm, but anytime you can gain 1 agenda, especially on the sly like this, is pretty good. And of course, if they don't fight you on the influence conflict, that +2 influence might actually do the job.
Nice. I noticed that somebody in chat said, I almost wish the guy had a knife too. And since the lady has a knife behind her back. But that's pretty funny.
A double hedge is a little, hedging your bets is like, you need to agree with me or I'm going to kill you, is kind of the, that's the hedge, not whoever loses is going to kill the other guy. It is not exactly, I get it, maybe he does, because we can't really see what's behind his back. We'll just, if you want to pretend that he has a knife, I'll back you up, okay? If you need to win,
I just assume all vampires have something up their sleeve, but maybe he's not a vampire. Maybe she's a vampire and he's just a dude.
I would say that in the world of vampire influence, they don't need to influence humans too much. They just impose their will on humans. They do need a little bit of influence when dealing with other vampires, though. So
that's a good question. Can I play this and activate this when my opponent plays a scheme?
Of course, yes, of course.
Even better. Here we go.
Yeah, and that's a good time to, and that's one of the better times to play it, because if you vote against it, then you're already setting yourself up for that agenda gain. So I wouldn't call it a utility card, but I'd call it an opportunistic card, or a very good card to put in your deck if your deck revolves around schemes or titles.
Yes, definitely. And I also did want to point out, this is a good card to see the new frames and the new way that all of the cards are laid out. So you can see the illustrator there on the bottom. Again, if you didn't see our little chat about the new cards, this is one of those beautifully new updated versions of that. So I just think they look really nice, especially on this one. Very cool. So that is Hedge Your Bets. We do have a few more cards to get through, not too many. So again, if people have
not too many
questions.
All right, some of the other vampires they haven't seen. So if you recall, there's eight new vampires in the Crypt Packs, 2 for each of the clans. And Flick is, so you might notice that Flick is a 3-cost character. Not all 3-cost characters are guards. So Flick is a 3-cost Bruja with presence, with the new Relentless keyword that we added late in the process. So Relentless means that you may use the character's activated ability during any player's turn. Okay, so that's what that means. Normally, you can only use an activated ability. Activated, basically any cost that has an effect, that's an activated ability. Even if it's a pay 1 blood, if it's an exhaust ability, those are all just during your own turn, unless it says Relentless. So for Flick, Relentless, pay 1 blood. This character has +3 influence during this action or event. So this allows the Bruja to get in on some of the influence stuff. And so because it's Relentless, you can use it during other players' turns. You basically, when it comes around to your turn, you can basically pull 1 blood off of her and then say, all right, then put a no influence token on her and say 3 influence says yes or no, or however you want to vote. So she's pretty good if you just, some people actually throw her into a deck just in case they come up against a scheme deck. They just want to have some answers. It's not a utility card. It's just a card that you're rarely going to recruit more than 4 vampires. So having a couple of vampires that are good against specific opposing strategies is not a terrible idea. And if you end up not needing her, you can always discard her to heal or for intel.
So I have a quick question about just tournament rules in general, and maybe you don't have an answer for this quite yet, but a card like this is probably going to be better against certain decks. So when you're playing in, say, a tournament, is there any chance, like there's in some other card games, to maybe take her out for a second game or choose a deck that you're going to play once you find out what they're playing? Any of those types of options?
Well, not quite, because you do need to have your deck complete and ready to go with your, you're going to be choosing your Haven, agenda, and leader as a secret thing at start of game. So you're not going to be able to choose the vampires in your faction deck after seeing what you're up against. But when you're up against 4 opponents, or 3 other opponents, you have to figure the odds. Maybe you know the meta, maybe you don't. Maybe you just want to have some people who are good against various strategies. So it's not like you can sideboard, if you're familiar with that term, just pull this card in for like another game. We're probably, our tournament rules will probably just be one game per round, type of thing. You're not going to be playing best 2 out of 3 against the same table of players, things like that.
Makes sense. But it does make sense also if you're going to be playing maybe a multi-clan deck, then this card would also probably be good for this play against a multi-clan deck. The chances that you're going to come up against somebody who's playing things where this would be helpful is pretty high.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the Bruja, like the Primogen title, which is a 3 influence title, you know, you could use Flick to gain that 3 influence. And that title, not only does it give you +1 influence, but it gives you +1 damage versus characters with a title. So there are reasons why, and the Bruja want to get plus damage wherever they can. So if you know you're playing against people who have titles, you know that they're going to be able to generate influence, so you probably can assume that they're going to have a couple of schemes as well. Because once you've got all of that influence from playing all these titles and whatnot, it's a good secondary strategy to now switch over to a scheme style to bring home the victory. So she might be able to help you stop it.
Very nice. Well, I'm super excited because we have some more vampires to show off. Let's see our next one.
All right. Malkavian Jesus. He's a 2-cost guy. There's only 2 2-cost guys. That's as small as it goes currently. And he's got Obfuscate. He also has Relentless. When this character is defeated, you may pay 1 prestige to gain 1 agenda. So if this guy is a self-flagellator, so I guess even well, it's, do you know what that is? Let's not even. It's basically he for religious reasons, he likes to break his skin to cause some blood. We'll just say vampires are already weird, and the Malkavians are even weirder. So anyway, that's what's happening on his back. Right. So as a self-flagellator, he doesn't mind getting knocked out. Now, keep in mind that when you get knocked out, you're going to immediately lose a prestige so that you can start the torpor process and put 1 blood on him. But if you've got a lot of prestige lying around, why not make some money out of it and turn it into and pay 1 prestige and gain an agenda? So he makes for a good blocker in your coterie if you want to protect your other characters. Your opponents might think twice about coming after him, but then again, if they hold your rival token, they'll gain an agenda for taking him out. So it's a double-edged sword.
Interesting. Yeah, I love that the Malkavians are just all really wacky. They all just do really unusual things.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. Can he heal the sick? That's pretty good.
He can protect the sick, but usually at the cost of his own life. So, but he comes back. He comes back quick. He comes back quick, so you can throw him out there again. So.
So if you use blood for blood with him, you could theoretically remove that last piece of blood and send him to torpor yourself.
That's true. Whenever no. Well, you actually not quite, because you cannot pay your last blood on a character. Okay.
Good to
so
know.
that is one of the base game rules, is you cannot kill a character by using payment of blood abilities, and you cannot spend your last prestige to kill yourself, even if doing so would win you the game. So, yeah. But you can certainly put a point of you can certainly send some special affairs division damage at him to put him at 1 health, and then he's a sure goner if anyone attacks. Even the weakest of attacks will take him out. So if that's your plan.
All right, I really would like to put in a request for the next set that we have a Capri Sun in there, because that blood bag really did look like a Capri Sun. That's a pretty good joke.
Capri Sun. Yeah, you could Capri Sun him back pretty quick. That's true. I thought the blood bag was a pretty good representation. He's got a straw in there and everything. So I've never heard a doctor say, give me three cc's of Capri Sun stat, So
I don't know. The last time I had my blood drawn, I did get a Capri Sun after I had my blood drawn.
See,
It was important.
See, I'm not always right. There it is.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to see this next one because I don't know what the card looks like yet, but the name is pretty exciting. Let me see if I can get this right. Bunny Benitez?
Benitez.
Benitez.
Yeah.
Nice. What is this card?
So this is a Toreador, and she has her text is, when a scheme you play succeeds, gain 1 prestige. And she has exhaust. This character has +2 influence during this action or event. So she may not be the best character to play the scheme if you want to exhaust her to gain that extra influence. But she's handy to have around if it succeeds, because she's going to give you some prestige, and you could use that prestige to, for instance, I don't know, you activate your PR firm, which would be nice. And of course, you get to choose the order in which you resolve effects that are all happening at the same time. So, so you can gain that prestige and then immediately spend it. Just you can't spend yourself down to 0 is all, even if you would win the game. So yes, once she can play a scheme, if she does, she's going to exhaust, which then will not allow her to use her exhaust ability. If someone else plays the scheme, then she can exhaust, she'll gain 2 influence. You can put a no influence token on her and then announce that influence as part of your overall vote for, obviously, yes, in that case, because you want it to succeed, to gain the prestige. So she's pretty good for that. And she can gain additional influence because she has, she can gain some additional influence from the card, which I just forgot the name of it. Crap. I was just thinking about it, so naturally I can't remember. There's the Toreador have an ongoing that gives each of their characters with prestige +1 influence. So she can gain it that way. So if you exhaust her and you have that, suddenly you have 3 prestige, even 3 influence, even better. Yep.
So a great question from St. Bailey's. Why does she have social skills? What's the thinking behind that?
Why no social skills? Presence is a social skill. Presence is eliciting emotional reactions out of people. So yeah, she basically, her exhaust is
social attack.
Her exhaust is like a seduction or a snake dance, something like that. She looks like the kind of gal who would do a snake dance to influence you, I would say.
Yeah, she does. So St. Bailey's clarified.
Why no social attack? I see. Well, not every single Toreador can be a master of social skills, so they gotta spread it out a little bit. But we gave her a little bit based on her, a little bit of influence based on the fact that she has presence. So the disciplines the disciplines do inform us how, when we assign, we usually will give people an ability first, and then or figure out some combination of like, oh, we want this character to have these 2 disciplines, so maybe this is the direction that their abilities should go. The stats,
I think that
and then the stats can work into that. The stats will work into that a little bit, but I would say the disciplines are more important towards the ability. The stats, we just need to have a little bit of variety. So like I said, not every Toreador can have 2 social.
Well, I think in this case, she probably was not really born socially adept, but she got these skills as she was working towards it. She learned how to do her snake dancing, had to be very disciplined.
She's a scary looking chick, so I could imagine I wouldn't want to read any poems to her.
You might run away from her to start with, but then she seduces you later.
That's right.
Just like a siren. I like it. Cool. Well, her name is Bunny. She must have worked pretty hard to gain that title.
Yeah. Right. Fair enough.
Awesome. Well, we have exactly 1 vampire left to talk about. Okay. I'm assuming it's been true. Hopefully. And then
these are all characters that we haven't seen, I think. Some of them may have been in the background of a Kickstarter shot, but you couldn't really see it, so we wanted to give him the full card. All right. So this is a Ventrue Yusuf Kaya. He is double fortitude, so he's having a schwitz there, and he tore out somebody's heart. So he's just just burning off some little bit of calories and whatnot. So his ability is exhaust, mend 1 blood on each titled character in your coterie and in torpor. So important thing to know here, if you haven't read the rules, is when characters go to torpor, they keep their titles, except for the Prince of the City. The Prince of the City gets stolen by whichever character took you out. So if a Bruja takes out the Prince of San Francisco, that Bruja character, no matter what their blood potency is, they're going to become the new prince. Now, of course, if a second Inquisition guy takes you out and you're the prince, then the title goes back into the streets. But this guy allows you, so you've got these characters with titles, you don't want them to go away because you enjoy using their titles. You want the extra influence, you want the abilities that those titles give you. But of course, people are just keep coming after you, and so the Ventrue need a little bit of way to stay alive. And so this guy does pretty well. He exhausts, which is not an action, doesn't have the word action there, so exhausting does not cost an action. So he can mend everybody with a title, and it doesn't even have to be in the party. It's just all your titled characters, which is of course necessary if a titled character is in torpor, because they're not a member of any party. So that's why it's written like that, in your coterie and in torpor. Your coterie is all the vampires, active vampires you control in play, but this one also hits the ones that in your torpor, not other people's torpor, by the way. Only your own.
That's important.
Yeah.
So we actually had a really good question that I missed earlier and was recent. So talking about both Bunny and now Yusuf, is exhaust an ability you can do when it's not your turn, or is this something that you have to do during only your turn?
Right.
Because it's
exhaust, an exhaust ability. So it has to say relentless in order to be able to use a payment effect on someone else's turn. Okay. So Yusuf can
is the payment effect because you're
so an exhaust ability like this. Yeah, so Yusuf and Bunny both just say exhaust. They don't say relentless. Therefore, they can only do it during their own turn. Whenever you see bold and then a colon, that's a cost. Everything after that is the effect. And if it's a payment, like pay 1 blood, draw a card, something like that, everything is once per turn, okay? That includes even when it's relentless. So for instance, with Flick, you can't remove 2 blood from her to get +6 influence. Even though it's relentless allows you to play it off turn, but you're still limited to once per turn. Now, of course, with Flick, you could remove 1 during player B's turn, and then you could remove 1 during player C's turn if you really wanted to, right? Still 1 per turn. Yusuf does not have relentless, so it is only during your own turn.
Awesome. And also, just to clarify, Rarvrin asked, and so Bunny can only be used on your own schemes and influences because you only do it on your own turn, right?
Yeah, her exhaust ability is only during your own turn. That is correct.
Awesome. Well, very interesting. This card does seem like he's going to be very useful, especially if you plan on playing against something like Bruja and your dudes are getting beat up all the time.
Right. And I should say that his double fortitude actually works pretty well for the other fortitude healing card in the game, because it does 1 healing per fortitude in your coterie, and he's got 2, so he's the only guy with 2 fortitude, so I think. And so actually, wait, I think Montgomery White might as well. So yeah, there's a couple ways to get that healing up, so he's all about the heals. I did see we had one other weird question too. Can she, I think this was Oh, I think
Oh, we
that's
already,
okay. I see. Can she use
yeah,
it
we
as
hit
offspring
that
someone
too.
else's turn? Yeah, right. We already, that was, you just rephrased the question. That's why it looked different.
Sorry, mixed you up.
Yes, Bunny
Yeah,
cannot use
so
these
back
offspring on
to,
player's turns.
right. So back that you were just talking about the double fortitude, I think it's really interesting when building a deck, you have to think about all of these different kind of, not necessarily requirements, but all these different things that are going to build on each other and work together, whether their abilities, individual, like special things on the card, or the symbols or the disciplines. There's just a lot to really think about. So we're definitely going to do some deck building on Vampire Wednesdays to help give some people ideas. And we would love to hear from you in chat about some deck building ideas you have, because it sounds like you've already got some. That should be fun. And we'll give you a chance to be able to play that starting October 9th on Tabletopia for a couple days and try out some of that deck building if you want to. Might be a little tricky. We're going to give you just the starting setup with all of the 4 different decks ready to go, ready to be played. So deck building will be a little bit challenging, and you won't have the Crypt Packs available in Tabletopia, just not in there quite yet. So we'll still let you, if you wanted to, you can go in there and spend the time to mix the decks together. But yeah, you will have to wait.
It might be better to play the pre-con decks, because then when your game arrives and you play it with your friends or family, you'll know every card that's coming up and you'll have an idea of how it works. So we'll see. I think for people's first game, but we'll see what happens. Never know.
Should be good though. It's only in a few weeks. So definitely Renegade Con. Check out our newsletter tomorrow for more information about that. It'll be very exciting. But yes, of course, Awesome as Coyote already has ideas, not surprising. And I can't wait to find out what party means. It'll be super fun.
Okay.
Nice. So speaking of Tabletopia, we actually do have some people who have been practicing and learning the game for the last couple of weeks, and we expect to have all of our new cards updated in Tabletopia in the next few days. Hopefully, cross all your fingers for us. And if that ends up being the case, then we'll be able to have that as our next Vampire Wednesday and let you watch a couple of people actually playing. So we're excited for you all to get to see the cards in action and then have even more questions. So make sure you check in with us next week here at 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock Pacific time. Yes, on Wednesdays. Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us. Matt, thank you so much for going through all those cards with us. And if you haven't filled out
all of them. I think that's.
Hey!
I think we've shown off every card at some point. Some of them may have been on Kickstarter already, but I was looking through some of the spoiler lists people have made, and I pulled out all the cards that weren't on there. So
I'm loving the Alice in Wonderland plan deck with Bunny Foo Foo. That's hilarious.
You better make Bunny your leader if you're going that heavy into naming your deck with all that.
I think so. She should definitely be a leader. That'd be fun. Hot tips from Matt.
There you go. Yeah, your
Nice.
leader doesn't have to be a high cost character. It's just usually a little safer because your leader ability is more protected that way. So.
We did have another city suggestion. London. I like London. That's pretty good. I do apologize. From earlier, Mexico City in Central America. I should have thought of that. Like I said, I've been playing too much Pandemic, and it's exactly the same as LA in colors, so I got confused. Right next to each other. Awesome. So yeah, and also if you have not yet filled out your pledge manager from our Kickstarter campaign, need any help, or you can't find their link, or anything at all, please write to us. Please fill that out. We really get all our numbers in quickly because we are starting production very, very soon, and it helps us out a ton to have those numbers. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Matt. Also, thank you, Desiree, for moderating chat and for helping us with the technical side behind the scenes, putting up all our beautiful cards. And we will see everybody next week on Vampire Wednesdays. Thank you all. Have fun.
Bye.